Tracy Mommy Reads. I am back again with another video. And no, you are not losing your mind. It is not Friday. I'm actually giving you a bonus video, a midweek bonus video. So it is Wednesday. But like I mentioned in a lot of my previous videos this year, I have read so many books. And the way that I have them scheduled to talk about on the channel, I'm like caught up basically for the year. Okay. And there are so many books that I already had scheduled, and I didn't really want to take them out of the rotation and kick them the next year, you know. But then there are books that I read this year that also I feel like, you know, I want to talk about on the channel. So for the summer, you may be seeing some extra videos come your way, maybe 2 videos per week through at least through June. Can't promise anything for July. We'll see, fingers crossed. But anyway, today I want to talk about the book The Names by Florence Knapp. The Names. And this is a book of the month selection. It didn't even have a blurb. It was so fresh. And this is this author's debut novel, and she did an outstanding job. I really like this one. So let's get into it. So The Names, I feel like it has such a unique premise. I mean, from anything I've ever read or heard about, right? You know, there are a lot of books that talk about the road not taken, right? And you get a glimpse of maybe what a character's life would have been like had they chose this person or that path. And the author gives us like alternating chapters or something like that. I've seen that done before. But this one, it put a spin on that, in that it looked at what the life of this little boy and his family would have been, depending on what they would have named him. So that's hence the title, The Names. And when the story starts off, it takes place in England somewhere. I don't know if it's in London directly or if it's in a city on the outskirts, like a suburban, you know, type city. But it's in England. And when it first opens, there's this woman. She has like a newborn. I don't know if he's even 6 months old. And then she also has a daughter that's like, you know, elementary school age or whatever. And the baby has to be like 3 or 4 months old, because what's happening is when they left the hospital, like they didn't name him. They didn't give him a name. So now she has to go down to the registrar's office and officially give him a name so that they can get a birth certificate. And her husband, his name is Gordon, and that is a family name. His dad's name is Gordon, and his dad's name was Gordon. And so that is, you know, what the husband, his expectation is. And I will tell you, he's a very domineering man. You could tell already before the story even gets deep into it that he's somewhat verbally abusive. So anyway, that day, her and her daughter, like she takes her daughter, you know, and they have the baby in the stroller, and they're gonna, I guess the registrar's office is not too far from where they live. So they're gonna, you know, have a nice day out, and they're gonna walk. So on the way, the daughter is like telling her, you know, giving her some other names that, you know, oh, it'd be cool if you could name, you know, the baby this. And then even the mom is like, oh, and I always thought about this for a name. So when they go, and I'm not going to give you the names. I gave you one, which is the dad, Gordon, and that's kind of playing to more of what I talk about. But when they go into the registrar's office, it cuts to like the way that it's described. You know, they kind of leave us hanging. It's like she writes down the name, and you just get a sense that it's not the name she should have wrote down, right? So it's either the name that the daughter picked or the name that she picked. It's definitely not Gordon. So then the next chapter is like, we get what the aftermath would be had she named him A. And we're going to let A be what the daughter said and B be the name she said. So she named him A. She goes home, and it is not a great reaction from her husband at all. It is like crazy what happened. right? And then the next chapter we get if she would have named him B. Similar situation, not as bad as the first chapter where we see what his reaction would have been, and then we get another chapter had she just named him Gordon like he said. And ironically, he's still an asshole about it. Like, why did it take her so long and this and that? And it's crazy that no matter what, she wasn't able to please this man. And that's kind of what happens throughout the book. The author gives us alternating chapters as if the little boy's life went on like when he was maybe, elementary school age with name A, elementary school age with name B, or elementary school age with Gordon. And then the next chapter, like he's a teenager with name A, name B, name Gordon. Like every other chapter, we're seeing him grow up basically with those different names and what type of person he's becoming and what's happening also with their family dynamic. And this goes on through his adulthood. And it's just very interesting how I feel some things, just like with some of the time travel books, how ultimately the thing that was meant to happen is going to happen regardless to, what his name is, but it could make life either easier or more difficult as he, goes on his journey. And I will tell you, I worked for a company one time because I've always, let me backtrack. I've always believed that names were important, right? Because someone can see your name and just before they even see you and maybe make some type of opinion or something about who you are. I mean, at least on a very small scale, depending on how familiar they are with the name. If they knew somebody with that name, you hear people like say, "Oh, all Joes are like," like if they've had a bad experience with someone with that name, you know what I mean? And so that brings me back to what I was just about to say. I worked for a company back in my 20s, and I was a assistant to like the recruiter. And I remember distinctly, this has never left me, that this was like before like internet, whatever. And people would mail in resumes, for job openings because they would be in the newspaper. That's how old I am. And I was told that if I could not pronounce their names, to send them a rejection letter. Yeah. And my name has been plain as Jane my whole life until I got married, and my last name gets mispronounced constantly. I don't know that a lot of people even know its origin. I'm not sure entirely that I know the origin. It's a married name. My maiden name is Walker, so I had a very common name, a name that was racially ambiguous, a name that was obviously American, but a lot of times I feel like depending on somebody's name, like I said, these assumptions are made. And even when I remember when Gwyneth Paltrow, I think she was the first celebrity that I'd ever heard of that had named her child like something like just so weird that people were just like, what is this child gonna have to go through life with that name? Because her daughter's name is Apple, but her parents were rich. When you kind of already have legacy and you have money, and you're not going to have to necessarily worry about conforming, or your name could be Tree, and But I guess let me back up because I'm really about to show my age, because she was not the first celebrity that did something like that. Frank Zappa was. I remember his daughter, because I think she may be my age, or maybe she's a little bit older. But I think her name is Moon Unit, right? Yeah. And then you have people like River Phoenix. I think his before Joaquin changed his name, I can't remember. I think it was Leaf. So yeah, so maybe, but again, those people, they're kind of entrenched in Hollywood and they have different experience than like the average person who a recruiter may be coming across your name and discounting you because they don't want to have problems saying your name, when you become an employee. And it's unfortunate. Because a lot of people's names, just like, in the book, even though he was an asshole through and through, Gordon's name was a family name. And I think sometimes that can be a little daunting as well, even if it's just something as simple as Gordon. But there's pressure there to fit a certain mold or to become a certain type of person to like impress dead people or to carry on a dead person's legacy. You know what I mean? Instead of being allowed to grow and learn and make mistakes and carve out your own identity. There's certain expectations when you're named after someone else. Sometimes it's just an honor. People name maybe their children, they give their children their parents' middle name, or maybe there's still people who name their sons after them. I've even, seen some people name their daughters after the husband, and the daughter becomes a junior, but I think that, what is it? Shakespeare had that quote about, what is in a name? Even if you saw a rose, it would still be a rose. But I don't know. I think that sometimes names can be detrimental depending on the environment that you're in. You get a lot of kids that are like teased on the playgrounds or at school if their names sound like something. Let's say if somebody's name was, I'm trying to think of a name, but of something that I can recall maybe in my own life, an example. But let's say if somebody's name is Peter, little kids may call him Pee-Pee, or you know what I'm saying? Like just cruel things like that. So I know when I was having my children, when I was pregnant, that was really something I really thought about because with the last name, like I said, people are already stumbling over that. I didn't want to have them stumble over my children's first names, right? So I picked something that I felt would, flow well together. So there's a lot of alliteration in our family, I will say that. But yeah, the names, it was just so well written and intentional. Like each name that he had in each iteration of his life and each stage of his life, it was just so drastically different. But again, some of the outcomes and things that happened, they were the same regardless to what his name was. Like I said, his father was abusive in every place along the way, right? And he had his sister, him and his sister, I think they were close in all but one of the lives that he had. The way that she turned out, essentially, was pretty much the same-ish, but it was just so much going on. And even though it was so much going on, it was so easy to follow because at the beginning of the chapters, I don't want to show y'all the one name, but at the beginning of every chapter, like she put the name, like, so Gordon, we're going into Gordon's story, and then name A's story, then, name B, but it was always the same time frame. So there was no way to get lost. And you can see I had so many thoughts and so many things that I flagged in the book. And like I was just saying about when people name their children, after them and after their father or their mother, and so on and so forth. There's a thing here. It says, they asked about why it matters about the name. And Cora wants to say, because Cora was the mom, that was her name. Cora wants to say it matters because sometimes big men feel small inside, because some people, like Gordon's father, travel through life believing themselves so far beyond improvement, they come to think their children and their children's children should all be made in their name. So, and some people, like I said, it's just an honor if they really love the person who raised them, or, it's just an honor maybe to name them after that person. But some people, it's like an expectation that, hey, we all are going to have the same name to the end of time so that I can live on and on and on through, my heirs or whatever. But, yeah, if you love stories that have a, like a domestic theme or family theme, story that shows you different outcomes of lives lived depending on circumstances, then you would definitely really, really enjoy this book. Because those are the things that I really loved about it, just getting to see how this family, you know, what happened with this family based simply on the decision that the mother made when she went to the registrar's office to register his name. What I didn't like about it, I can't think of anything that I didn't like about it. I mean, I felt the pacing was good. The storytelling was good. There was some realism to things that were happening. I mean, I hated Gordon, the dad, like, you know, and it's easy sometimes, I think, there's a lot of this going on in real life right now, especially talking about that case with that man, you know, that record producer. But it's easy for people to say when someone's in an abusive relationship that why didn't they just leave? But, you know, there was a lot of circumstances and things in this book, as in real life, you know, when people are isolated or cut off, or they don't see a way out, or they have little kids, and just a lot of things that you have to consider, because a lot of times the kids end up being used as weapons against you. So keep that in mind. Trigger warnings. There's a lot of domestic abuse in every iteration of the child's life, right? In Gordon's life, whether he was named A, B, or Gordon. And there's character death that gut punched me. There is, I'm trying to see if there's any, like, those are the only real trigger warnings. There are some themes of, not themes, but there's a character in the LGBTQIA community. That's not a trigger warning. It's just a, you know, heads up or whatever, because you still got people that may not want to delve into that. But yeah, overall, I loved it. I think the takeaway that I got from the book was that sometimes you can't fight fate. You know, that sometimes there's not things that you can do, but I feel like the better chance that a child or anybody has coming into the world, the more they can like have a solid foundation to start, whether that be with their name, with their home environment, or anything like that, the better chance that they can make it to adulthood unscathed, and a better chance that they can become maybe a productive member of society. So yeah, I got all that from this book, The Names by Florence Knapp. Very new book, but if you have already read this, or if you got it from the book of the month as well, I would love to know your thoughts. Let me know in the comments. Thanks so much for watching. You guys enjoy the rest of your week, and I will be back on Friday with my regularly scheduled book review. Bye.